Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the Eurozone on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines this hour. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky to leave for Italy for meetings with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni after visiting London and Brussels on Monday for talks on how to end the war with Russia. Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov says Moscow's forces were advancing along the entire front line in Ukraine and were targeting surrounded Ukrainian troops in the town of Myrnohrad. Lithuania declares a state of emergency over smuggler balloons originating in Belarus that have disrupted aviation and asked Parliament to allow the military to operate alongside police and border guards. The European Commission has launched an antitrust probe to assess whether Alphabet's Google was breaching European Union competition rules in its use of online content from web publishers and YouTube for artificial intelligence purposes. Czech President Peter Pavel appointed the billionaire leader of the populist ANO party, Andrej Babis, as Prime Minister, marking a key step in the formation of a government after ANO won an October parliamentary election. European Union climate monitors say 2025 is on track to the 2023 as the second hottest year ever recorded, following 2024's record heat. Global temperatures from January to November were 1.48 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. 4 Pakistani soldiers killed, 6 injured after TTP fighters ambushed a Pakistan army vehicle in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Thailand says it is moving to expel Cambodian troops as fighting along their disrupted border intensifies, with Cambodia reporting 6 dead. Both sides blame each other as the violence undermines a Trump-brokered ceasefire that halted earlier in July. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has arrived at the papal residence of Castel Gandolfo for a meeting with Pope Leo XIV in Italy. Earlier, Zelensky convened in London with UK's Keir Starmer, France's Emmanuel Macron and Germany's mayors to discuss the war with Russia. Following his London visit, Zelensky met with the leaders of NATO and European Commission in Brussels on the issue of Russian frozen assets. Only 7 out of the 27 European Union member states voted to move ahead with loans to Ukraine. The loans have been opposed by Belgium, where most of the Russian frozen assets are held. Zelensky has said that under the prioritized Ukraine requirements list or the PURL program, funded by NATO member countries to provide Ukraine with weapons, about $15 billion are needed each year. The European leaders also discussed the US peace plan to end the war. Zelensky has said that Ukraine and its European allies are expected to finalize their version of the peace proposal today before presenting it to the United States. Zelensky has also stated that Kyiv has no legal or moral right to cede land to Russia in any deal that is aimed at ending the war between the two countries. He has added that the United States is trying to find a compromise on the issue. And joining me on this bulletin is Alison Matler, former AP chief in Romania. She joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you, Alison, for joining us once again here at NewsX World. Now, Zelensky is going from nation to nation in the European Union to muster support. But do we see him benefiting in any way as far as the peace deal or the frozen Russian assets are concerned?
It's unclear how much success he will have, but had he stayed at home in Kiev, he certainly would have had any success. So he has no other option than to rally around European leaders on his side. They are his main allies at the moment. He does need Donald Trump, but with Donald Trump blowing hot and cold and currently being more favorable to the Kremlin's demands, Vladimir Zelensky has to do this shuttle diplomacy. I mean, he's had a whirlwind of, of visits to, as you said, to London, to Brussels in one day, and
Right.
now he's in Italy meeting Giorgia Meloni and the Pope. So it's very important. This is a lifeline for Ukraine as it battles to change the original peace plan and find something which it can agree to. So it's unclear what success you will have because on the other side you do have Russia at the moment backed by Donald Trump. But Zelensky needs to do everything he can to get the best possible outcome for his nation.
And with the opposition of Belgium and some of the others who've not voted in favor of using the frozen Russian assets, how is Zelensky going to gather all these funds required for rebuilding Ukraine?
It's a very difficult question, and there'll be people, his advisors, thinking of ways to raise these funds. We're talking about a lot of money. But that said, Europe itself is rich. I mean, the European Union is a very rich bloc. There must be ways of getting money, whether it's some kind of loan with favorable terms. But obviously, the Russian frozen assets is a very sticky issue for Belgium and also for the European Union. Because of the possible repercussions from Russia. And also, I think there's a certain fear of Russia, particularly from Belgium. Belgium is a small country. It's a rich country. It's a democracy, but it's a small country compared to Russia. And it doesn't really want the complications of Russia taking action against it. So I think Russia is bullying Belgium into not releasing those funds. And you can understand from Russia's point of view why they would do this. But Zelensky has scrambling to find other sources. He'll have to be quite inventive in his thinking, quite creative in his thinking. But he does have advisors, and there are European nations who will probably be giving him good advice, consultations on how to do this.
Right. Stay on with me, Alison. There's some breaking news now coming in. Viewers, a Russian military transport aircraft has tragically crashed in the Ivanovo region located northeast of Moscow. The AN-22, also known as the Ante, went down earlier today with 7 crew members on board. According to the local media, there are no immediate reports on the condition of the crew. Authorities are investigating the cause of the crash. And we now move on, viewers. Russian air defenses have also shot down 121 Ukrainian drones over several regions, including the Caspian Sea, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Now, in a separate incident, a drone raid on the city of Cheboksary has left 9 people injured, including a child. Authorities say the victims are receiving medical care. Some residential buildings were damaged in the attack, and emergency services are working at full capacity to handle the situation. A fire caused by the drone strike has now been extinguished, and temporary road restrictions have been put in place. An emergency center has been set up to assist residents. And let's now have Alison back into the discussion here. Alison, once again, Russia downs the 121 Ukrainian drones. Where is this? Where is this stopping? Where is this leading to? Of course, both countries continue to target each other using drones on their power facilities and other energy stations. In the absence of a peace deal reaching its conclusion, the strikes are unabated. What's your assessment?
Yes, I mean, these strikes, obviously they're military and they're designed from both sides to weaken the other's position, but they are I think they're being ratcheted up precisely because there seems to be no resolution to the peace deals. And so each side is trying to show that they are militarily very strong and they will not back off. And the idea is to put pressure, for Russia to put pressure, because it's a bigger country, on Ukraine, saying, okay, you're not going to agree to a peace deal, well, then we will just bomb you, we will just target you, we will hit you with drones, with bombs, with missiles, and we will hit you indiscriminately. The idea is to pressure Ukraine into coming to the table. Ukraine is a smaller country, coming to the table and agreeing to Russia's terms. But by the same token, as we have seen in this almost 4 years of war, Ukraine is fiercely fighting back. It is targeting strategically. It is targeting, as you said, energy stations. It's targeting strategic oil depots. It's trying to weaken Russia's war facilities. So neither side is backing down, and it is because of the problems with the diplomacy, which is basically blocked at the moment. I mean, there's a furious, visits going on and talks going on, but at the moment we haven't got anywhere. That's a reality. So both sides are showing that on the military front they are fighting as fiercely as ever.
Right. All right, Alison. Thank you for joining us and giving us your comments there. And now we have some more information, viewers, coming from Russia, where Russia's top general Valery Gerasimov has said that Moscow's forces are advancing along the entire front line in Ukraine, focusing on encircling Ukrainian troops in Myrnohrad. Now, he claims that Russia has taken over 30% of the town's buildings. He's also mentioned that Russia's capture of Pokrovsk is an important step towards taking the whole of Donbas region. Listen into what the Chief of General Staff of Russian Armed Forces has said.
Войска объединенной группировки продолжают наступление практически на всех направлениях. В ходе доклада Верховному главнокомандующему 1 декабря об освобождении Красноармейска Верховный главнокомандующий обратил внимание и поставил задачу по разгрому подразделений противника в районах восточнее Красноармейска и в Димитрове. На сегодняшний день соединения и воинские части 2-й армии освободили населенные пункты Ровное, Рог и Гнатовку, примыкающих к Красноармейску с восточной стороны.
However, Ukraine claims that the allegation is untrue, saying its forces still hold parts of Myrnohrad and are resisting Russian attacks, forcing Moscow to pay a high price for relatively small gains. Russia currently controls near a fifth of Ukraine, including Crimea, most of Luhansk and Donetsk, and parts of Kherson, Zaporizhia, and other regions. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned Russia will take full control of the Donbas region unless Ukrainian forces withdraw. Kyiv has rejected the demand, vowing to defend its territory. We now move on to some news coming in from Lithuania, where government has declared a state of emergency over smuggler balloons originating in Belarus that have disrupted aviation. The government has also asked the parliament to allow the military to operate alongside police and border guards. Vilnius airport has been closed repeatedly due to the weather balloons, which Lithuania says are sent by smugglers transporting cigarettes and constitute a hybrid attack by Belarus, a close ally of Russia. Belarus has denied responsibility for the balloons and accused Lithuania of provocations, including sending a drone to drop extremist material, which Lithuania denies. And I'm now joined by Sander van Hoorn, who is the former European Union correspondent, joins us live from Netherlands. Thank you for joining us. Sander, what really is happening between the two countries? Both are accusing each other, Belarus denying Lithuanian claims of smuggling these balloons.
Well, you mentioned balloon smuggling, for example, cigarettes, and that's regular contraband. So Lithuania is basically accusing the Belarusian government, but it's questionable to what extent they are involved. What Lithuania is saying is that Belarus is not trying to stop the smugglers, The problem is not so much the balloons, the smuggling. The problem is the extent to which it affects, for example, air traffic. The airport of Vilnius has to be closed like multiple times already this year. So basically, that is costing a lot of money, and it's posing a security threat, Lithuania claims.
In fact, Lukashenko is claiming that Lithuania is exaggerating its claims. Do they really want to fight, is the question that he's asking.
Lithuania says that this year already over 600 smuggling balloons and 200 drones have entered Lithuanian airspace, and that causes the close down of the airports. So basically also the state of emergency, it's like a symbolic measure. Of course, it gives the army and the authorities more means to, for example, counter the threat of those balloons. But if you want to shoot a balloon out of the air, you can do so regardless. You don't need a state of emergency for that. So, exactly. So this is, I think, in effect, a statement aimed at the Belarusian government that Lithuania is taking this extremely serious.
Right. Would you call this a knee-jerk reaction from Lithuania? Declaring a state of emergency just because of these balloons that are allegedly only carrying cigarettes and contraband, as you say?
I think they need to make a statement because they are worried that balloons that smuggle cigarettes could eventually, for example, also smuggle arms, and it's a violation of the airspace. So, in a way, every country is entitled to react accordingly. Now, the question remains if those balloons are being sent on behalf of the Belarusian government or its smugglers. And in that case, with smuggling, it's always the case that there's not only there has to be a demand on the Lithuanian side for example, those cigarettes. So as long as the demand is there, the balloons by smugglers will keep on flying.
All right. Thank you. Do stay on with us. We have some more information to give our viewers. Viewers, let's tell you now that the European Union has launched a probe into Google, investigating whether the tech giant has violated competition laws. The focus is on whether Google used content from media outlets and publishers to train its AI systems without proper compensation. European Union Competition Chief Teresa Ribera has confirmed the investigation, saying the European Union is looking into whether Google imposed unfair terms on content creators and publishers. The inquiry will also assess if this practice has put competing AI developers at a disadvantage. The European Union's decision could have significant implications for how tech companies handle content in the age of artificial intelligence. And I now request Sander Van Hoorn to join us back into the discussion here. Sander, my question too is, how really are the tech giants going to manage using content available on the internet, in the age of AI? Already we had a statement from Elon Musk, who went on to say that European Union should be abolished after, X was fined heavy penalties. And now European Union also mulling action if investigation goes in that direction on Alphabet.
Yeah, well, this, of course, is a multi-layered probe. It's not one problem the European Commission has with, in this case, Google. It's about the providers of content. For example, if you want to find some news on India and you get a result from NewsX World, then it will probably be in an AI generated segment on top of the search page of Google. And if you use only that part of the information, you will not click on a link that takes you actually to NewsX World. And that's where, for example, in your case, the advertisements are. So you, as a media provider, as a news provider, lose a lot of money without the ability to opt out. So for now, you cannot say we don't want Google to include our news into its AI generated content. And it's not only for big news outlets, it's also on YouTube, for example, for content generators that upload videos. They cannot be opted out of the use of Google. So that is one part, they're not being able to opt out of the use of in AI models. The second part is that Google makes it difficult for AI competitors to use YouTube and Google results to train their own AI models, and that's bad for competition. So those are two of the layers that the European Commission is going to investigate, because it's a breach of the competition rules, they claim.
So where does this leave the tech firms? How are they going to manage content?
Well, at least according to the European Commission, they should be transparent about it. They should allow competition to use the same content to train their AI models, and they should have an option to opt out, or at least, for example, in the case of NewsX World, compensate NewsX World when they use their content in AI generated results. So that's the things that are going to be investigated. Now,
Right.
Google has responded more or less in the same line that Elon Musk has responded on behalf of X, saying
Right.
that this is bad for innovation, and that in a free market you should be able to use your own product for your own use without allowing the competitors to use the same content.
All right, thank you for joining us, Sander, and giving us all that. And with that, I'll let you go and we move on, viewers. Now, Czech President Peter Pavel has appointed the billionaire leader of the populist party, Andrej Babis, as the Prime Minister. Babi, whose party won an October 3-4 parliamentary election, which will take over from a centre-right government after his full cabinet is to be appointed later this month. Babis has returned to power after 4 years in opposition, during which he shifted from the liberal centre towards European fringe right forces, joining the Patriots for Europe in the European Parliament. Babis will include the far right in his cabinet, the anti-European Union and pro-Russian SPD party, and the Motorists for Themselves party, whose main agenda is opposing the European Union's climate policies. And now moving on, France's social security budget faced a knife-edge vote that could trigger a fresh political crisis and leave a $35 billion hole in funding for healthcare, pensions and welfare. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu has no majority in parliament, and his scramble to win socialist support, which includes suspension of President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform, as it has alienated centrist and conservative allies, leaving the bill's fate uncertain. However, lawmakers in the lower house have begun to review the bill days after narrowly approving the taxation side of the legislation. Meanwhile, the socialist leader Olivier Faure has said that his party would back the bill after winning concessions, including the suspension of Macron's landmark 2023 pension reform until the 2027 presidential election. And now some news from Cambodia, where at least 7 civilians have been killed and 20 others are injured in renewed Thai attacks along the Cambodia-Thailand border. This is according to official sources. Cambodia's defense ministry has confirmed the casualties, while former leader Hun Sen said that Cambodian forces retaliated after holding back for 2 days. Meanwhile, Thailand reports further losses on its side. The Thai army says 2 more soldiers were killed in border clashes, bringing the total military death toll to 3. 1 soldier died in Surin province after coming under indirect fire, while another was killed by a grenade attack near the Priha Vihar temple, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The strikes come a day after US President Donald Trump repeated his claim of ending 8 global conflicts, including the Thailand-Cambodia dispute. The escalation has marked the West fighting since a ceasefire in July and a peace agreement reached in October during Trump's Asia tour. Both sides have traded blame, accusing each other of violating the ceasefire. Tension has remained high since Thailand halted implementation of the deal in November following a landmine blast that injured a Thai soldier, an accusation that Cambodia, however, denies. And now some news from South Korea, which is saying that it has crumbled fighter jets after Chinese and Russian military aircraft entered and exited its Korea Air Defense Identification Zone, or the KADIS. According to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, 7 Russian and 2 Chinese aircraft flew into the zone at around 10 a.m. local time before departing and at no point violated South Korean territorial airspace. South Korean forces identified the aircraft early and deployed fighters as a precaution in case of contingency. The aircraft reportedly remained in the KADIS for about an hour, maneuvering off the country's east and south coasts. Initial local media reports suggested as many as 11 aircraft were involved, though the military later confirmed 9. Joint Chinese-Russian flights around the Korean Peninsula are not uncommon, with such operations typically taking place once or twice a year, according to South Korean officials. And that's a wrap on the NewsX Eurozone. Do keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.